Hi Piccolos! This is a practice guide to Don Quixote by Strauss, the Piccolo part. And do you like my new shirt? My brother got it for me. Okay, so our first big solo or exposed part is down here after rehearsal 14. And we are in unison with the solo viola. It's a little tricky, but luckily we have these bass clarinet parts right before, so it helps us not get lost. So anyway, the two measures before of rest, the viola does the figure, it's kind of awkward and I never know where the beats are, but it's like or something like that. Anyway, there's a quarter rest in that second bar of rest. There's a quarter rest. Anyway, I would just watch the conductor, you're just right away. I wouldn't try, it just depends on where you are positioned in your orchestra. I just played it with Hawaii Symphony and the viola was so far away and I could see his head, but nothing else. So sometimes you can make eye contact with the violist and kind of move together. But I find for this particular 3 measures or so, 2 measures, I guess, if you just do it right in time, it should ideally work out. So just a few things. That G, I think it's pretty common for piccolos to be pretty sharp. You don't want to adjust too much to yourself. I mean, you have to match the viola. Even if the G is a little sharp, I have never found, well, I've only played this 2 or 3 times. I've never found that to be too weird with the intonation. Luckily, playing in unison with viola is pretty forgiving. Anyway, that first G, when you get to it, just try to sit in it. But don't get too caught up in it because you have to keep it moving. And then the B flat, oh, there should be a tie to the B flat to the next B flat. There's a little crescendo, just a little bit of forward motion. And the violas always take a breath. Or it's a bowing situation, I don't know. But anyway, there's always a break after the B flat. So do that. And then just stay in time. And hopefully it all works out. All right, and then the next thing we have is right before variation 1. It's so delicate and it's in unison with the viola. Just be aware, and this will all work out if you just count the measures and the rest there. But in that quarter rest, there is a big low tuba note. So sometimes I find myself ready to do the and it's like, oh yeah, there's tuba yet. So just wait for that. The intonation can be squirrely. It needs to be soft, but it also needs to be present. So try to rather make it delicate. And once you hit that C, do not move unless you're way out. But I have found yet a C, and I'll let the viola find me if need be. Try to ideally just let it fade out into the universe of the hall. If your C tends to be really low and you're having a hard time keeping it up high enough to match with the violist, there's an alternate fingering which you could use, but it's a little awkward coming from the D. The alternate fingering for C is no thumb in the left hand, no thumb, and then the first finger, middle finger, ring finger, and then in the right hand, first finger and ring finger and pinky. So just raise it quite a bit. Mine is too sharp coming from the D. But anyway, that's an option. Basically, throughout this whole thing, you really just have to make sure you do not get lost. What I did before my very first rehearsal, just to make sure, and I've played this before, but I went through a recording, wrote down timings for when I want to just play along with the recording at that moment. For instance, what we were going over before, I wrote down 6 minutes, 45 seconds, so I can just fast forward my recording to there and then try to play along with the recording. And I did that throughout the whole piece. For instance, and we'll get to this section later, but about 17 minutes in to the recording is right here. And so I would fast forward it to there and then make sure I could play that in the context of the whole orchestra. The reason why in this particular piece that this strategy I felt is good is because you have little ba-da-da and this ya-da-da, da-da-da. They're just little snippets of piccolo, but they're all vital and very exposed, but you're not playing along with the orchestra the whole time. So it's really easy to miss these moments. So anyway, I did this all the way through, like here, 27, 20, and at the end, if I just wanted to play along the last page or something, I could fast forward to 31 minutes and 20 seconds. Before 19, the cello, solo cello, it's free, rather free right here, and there's a cello right, accelerating. Forget what the rhythm, something like ba-da-da, ba-da-da, ba-da-da. Anyway, and then it's like yup, up, 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 da, 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 da. And you go right at the end of their cello line. I mean, the conductor will let you know when to come in, but if you're aware of that when you're listening to the cello, then it's super helpful. Okay, anyway, going down, the rest is not bad on this. Oh, here, before 36. This is trickier than it looks. I mean, there's a lot of notes, but the technique, it's not hard. It's tricky because there's a lot going on. The orchestra is very thick and lush in the typical Strauss way. And then the cellos have yada da da 1, 2, 3 yada da da da. I did the alternate C sharp, and I tried to hold on to the C sharp held note a tiny bit longer than maybe I should have before I went down the 30 seconds, so that it's not ba da 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 like that. But I tried to do ba da da ya da da like that. And the alternate fingering, for me anyway, on the C sharp does make it kind of sharp, so I try to bring it down a little bit, but the regular C sharp for me is just too flat. And then I did, for whatever it's worth, coming down, I did B natural, A sharp, I did lever, G sharp, F sharp, C sharp, and then when I went to the next low A sharp, I did put my thumb on the B flat side. This part here was probably my absolute favorite part. You're in unison with I believe the first violins. Again, there's a lot going on, lush orchestration. But the piccolo is just, you're adding color to the violin line, and it's very effective. It's, we're in our middle register, you can't really hear us. So with that said, I wouldn't try to be like, oh, I have the melody, piccolo concerto time, and like, you're just color to the existing violin line. So you got to fit right in there and try to enhance it a little bit. Okay, and then the next page, oh, just by the way, this A sharp at the top of the page, my regular fingering A sharp works okay, but if yours is too flat, or you feel because it's so soft that you need to raise yours, there is the alternate B flat or A sharp fingering, which is just like regular B flat, thumb on the B flat side, first finger here, and then just add these 3. And then we have a bunch of rest. A lot of stops and starts are happening, fermatas, etc. But it's okay. You don't even really need to count all this, because when you get to pick up to 54, that's very obvious. It's very different and contrasting to anything else. You have this yada da 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 ba 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 da yada, this little cute melody in the oboe. But do make sure once that melody starts at 54 that you do keep track and really start counting maybe at this 2/4 here, because you do have this thing at the end, which dovetails the flutes. So it needs to be there. And then at 57, these are just scales, no big deal. There's the big wind machine is going on. The flutes are doing big, huge chromatic scales with flutter tonguing, which I'm always jealous because I always want to play that part. And this is in 8. So right here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, this part on the last page, I think I'll just play it down for these 4 lines or so, and then go back and talk about some alternate fingerings and articulation choices that I did anyway. Okay, so the ta-ka-ta-ta. You really need to do ta-ka-ta-ta. There's not enough time for ta-ta-ta-ta. So whenever you have that dotted 8th to the 16th to an 8th in a triplet, it's at the very beginning, and like over here at 68, ta-ka-ta-ta, ta-ka-ta-ta-ta-ta. And then the rest doesn't have to be triple tongued, just ta-ka-ta-ta-ta-ta. Or you could do ta-ka-ta-ta-ta-ta. It doesn't matter. But anyway, the ta-ka-ta I think is you need to do. Starting right here, know that you're building up from there. Ya da 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 A da 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 B flat da 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 B natural da 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 C da 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 da, and this B flat major scale is all that is. So of course have your thumb on the B flat and just know you're landing on E flat, E flat, and then the 2 notes after that I did I did K and a T. Otherwise I trip over my notes. So, I don't know if I did. So maybe I did do triple tonguing for all the regular triplets. Ta 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 ta. I don't know. But anyway, right here, coming off of the E flat, definitely kata. And then at 68, you're back to ta 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 ta. I did alternate A flat for the very first one for safety, just to make sure it comes out. It's triple forte. Make sure you don't overplay because you risk the just the explosion of air. So the note just needs to be there and you will be heard. I did alternate A flat for the first one, G, and then to regular A flat for some reason. Oh, because then high B flat is next. And if you're doing this alternate for the, the second A flat, then then you can't really get to the B flat very well. Plus, by the time I do the first two notes, my airspeed is like going full on. So that second A flat, I can do regular fingering and the note will come out. So in the high register, it's really all about your velocity of air, not your quantity of air, but the velocity. It's got to go fast. Our last two notes, it's kind of like the end to the whole big story adventures of Don Quixote. Definitely alternate fingering on the C sharp. You could do alternate for the high D. I just did regular, and there is a breath between the two whole notes. All right, those are all the main spots in this amazing tone poem by Strauss. So well written for the piccolo. And yeah, hopefully some of the stuff I went over was helpful, some of those alternate fingerings, etc. Also, please hit subscribe if you haven't already. I do have an ongoing playlist of these practice guides for piccolo, mostly piccolo and orchestra, and then you'll get a notification for when I get the next one up. And you might want to go back and look at the ones that I have posted already. It's about 50 or so of them, I think. Thanks for watching this video and happy practicing.